Welcome back. I'm Tommy, and I help people step into their power by eliminating negative thinking and beliefs. And today we're going to talk about one of those topics in more detail, which is how to change negative beliefs. That's a big topic, of course, and I'm only going to spend a little bit of time on it, but I'm going to tell you a story of my experience in terms of changing my negative beliefs and some of the deepest negative beliefs that I've had in my lifetime that have not kept me from doing things or succeeding or stepping into new experiences, but they certainly have slowed down the process and caused me pain as a result of getting stuck in certain ways of doing things because of some of these negative beliefs. And as I said in my last video, I'm a person who has spent a lot of time and continues to spend time understanding why I behave and act and believe and think the way that I do. Because when I can understand that, then I have more willingness to make adjustments, and I can seek the types of adjustments that could be best for me to eliminate things like negative beliefs. We could also call negative beliefs false beliefs, because we are all born in God's or the universe's or sources or your higher powers perfect image. And I believe that we are all capable of anything that we truly set our minds to in a positive, high frequency and stick with, and not allow these negative beliefs to keep creeping in to self-sabotage our best efforts, which happens to many of us again and again, until the point where we don't believe it's possible to eliminate negative beliefs. We don't believe it's possible to manifest the things that we want, even though we're told over and over again that we can do this. And we can get really frustrated and we can just give up, or in some cases never even try to change elements of our lives that we're not happy with or that we'd like to see improvement in. So I have given this a lot of contemplation in the last little while preparing to deliver this video. And I have learned for myself to go digging really deep and way far back, even though I don't like to live in the past. And in fact, because my childhood in particular was very traumatic, we tend to be people who actually block out a lot of thoughts about and memories of our past, because it's just easier to function and to move forward in that way. And we even started to learn how to block things out when we were living in that trauma in order to survive. So to go back hasn't always been comfortable. Today I can go back and I don't have a ton of emotion attached to it anymore. I understand that it's what happened to me. I believe what happened to me brings me here today to talk to you, that there are reasons why, and I'm going to do my best to utilize in the best way possible those experiences to help others. So that's my belief around why I had the experiences that I had. But I was contemplating over the last little while, what is it that has kept me from, for example, stepping into the role of a life coach? Because I've been equipped to do it for quite a long time. And I have wanted in my heart to do it for quite a long time. And now that I've listened to others as well, trying to step into passion work, the work that we really discover that we were brought to earth to do, that gives us the most joy, the most satisfaction, which for me means I'm also giving the best of myself to other people and they're benefiting. So why is it that it takes some of us way longer than others to recognize that we're meant for this work and move forward with it. And I often talk about my dysfunctional childhood and my alcoholic dad and my mom who drank a lot as well. But I haven't brought up, at least in this form, or any of my Pure Power coaching forms to date, my sister, who suffers from deep mental illness and somehow had this with her from birth, as far as any of us could tell in our family. And unfortunately, those many, many years ago, the resources available and the knowledge around some of these mental health issues just appeared, at least in my family, to be very limited. Because I know we sought some help and it just didn't seem to be there. And by the time we knew for sure that it was needed, my sister was 16, 17 years old and simply didn't want any help. And she's lived her whole life believing that she doesn't need the help and that everyone else in the outside world is the source of her problems. And I haven't seen my sister in decades, probably close to 20 years now, nor has the rest of our family. She sort of lives this, I don't know what kind of life she lives, and I had to let that go and let her go when she chose to be the way she is and not want to be well, which is her choice. But what I discovered about my own negative beliefs regarding my relationship growing up with my sister was that she was a constant source of shaming me regarding who I was and what I was when I was a kid. And what I mean by that is I was blessed to be quite intelligent as a child. I was smart in school. I skipped a grade. So did our older brother, because I'm the youngest and my brother was the oldest and my sister was in the middle. While my sister struggled with learning disabilities, she very well was dyslexic, but that wasn't diagnosed even back in the day. She really struggled with school, and she just berated me all the time for being who I was. And what happened was I actually developed a belief that it wasn't okay to be special, that's for sure. Special in any way, she told me, was selfish, self-centered. I didn't care about anyone else. And she told me these things through my whole upbringing and even into my adult life. So this was a narrative that got ingrained in me that I really haven't given much thought to up until recently. She disliked the fact that my father really valued achievement. In his own way, he was successful in business. He was very bright. And I was able to gain some attention from my dad at times by showing up and doing well at school, for example, or in athletics, etc. And I really desperately wanted that love and attention from my dad as well. So I struggled in this strange dynamic between a sister who constantly told me that who I was and what I was doing was not okay, and a dad whose attention I couldn't get no matter what, because unfortunately the disease of alcoholism took precedence in his life. And so this is what I've started to realize now, is that it's not really that I lack self-confidence, but I can now start to define it as sort of a shame around stepping out and stepping forward and shining my light. And you know, as a kid, I always knew I had a bright, bright light. And I was such a positive kid and a really loving kid and somebody who wanted to help everyone, including my sister, by the way. But I never could help my sister, and I would try and reason with her about her way of thinking and try and get her to understand my way of thinking, which unfortunately was someone who, let's define her at minimum as a sociopath, but someone who, she may have been bipolar, quite possibly, but either way was completely incapable of ever accepting somebody else's reality of anything. The idea around reasoning with her was impossible, which also caused me great pain, grief, and frustration as a kid who just didn't understand any of it. Anyhow, this is what I wanted to bring forward in terms of a negative belief about myself. That shining a light, bringing my best self forward, bringing yourself best self forward, for example. Sometimes people in our lives have really blown out that flame, and we accepted it as truth, at least subconsciously, as we are again told, especially in those early years of our development, that without knowing, we accepted it at some level. And our ability to bring our best self forward sort of just got pushed down, and I wasn't as passionate a person going forward in my life. And of course, for me, I discovered marijuana and alcohol as I became a young teenager and going forward, so that instead of struggling with some of those negative beliefs and my being stuck, I just use those substances to not feel anything, or certainly not feel nearly as much, because a lot of what I felt was confused, sad, afraid, and not knowing how to best navigate forward. And again, without those support systems of my family in general to help me with that. But what I know today is those negative beliefs were completely 100% not true. They were not true. And I ended up taking on the energy and the messaging of someone who was so damaged, so hurt herself, so devastated, I guess, with her own life circumstance in some ways, that she would do anything to ensure that I was as dim a light as I possibly could be. And then, unfortunately, with her inability to empathize at all with anyone, meant that my pain, my sadness, my attempts to communicate to her how hurtful this was to me and how I didn't feel that it was correct thinking, was completely ineffective, because she was not capable of absorbing what I was trying to say. And I didn't understand any of that either. I mean, a lot of this stuff some people never understand it in their whole lives. I am grateful today that I at least understand it, because as I said, when I can understand it, then I can let go far easier to that negative belief, because that was her belief. I just absorbed it. I never believed that about myself, but I felt guilty when I allowed myself to say to myself as a kid, that's not true. And it's okay to shine my light. And it's okay to be really bright and full of life and enthusiastic and eager to do things. I just couldn't keep bringing that forward because there was just such a negative force against it that I finally just decided to let it go and use those drugs and alcohol to not feel so defeated. And eventually, when I was in second year of university, I was here in Toronto, I lived at home, and we had left the family dynamic of my dad as an alcoholic. So it was my mom and my sister and I living together. And in some ways it was far better, because that dynamic of the alcoholism directly in the family with my dad was removed. But that was when I started to realize that because my sister was still there and still behaving in those terribly negative, abusive ways to both myself and to my mom, in second year of university, I just moved out, and I moved to downtown Toronto, and saw my mom once a week, and I never went home again. I never lived at home again, and that for me was a good thing. Unfortunately, she literally pushed everyone away and out of the family, and it left my mom really struggling there with her, but that's for another video. So I would like you to have a look back, look way back, and look at where some of these negative beliefs may have been developed that again moved into the subconscious mind. So you really didn't have a hold on where they came from, or that you even had or have them. And once you can start to identify that, you can start to heal from that by bringing them forward and processing them up and out of the body. And we best do that through meditation and breath work. So that's what I have to share. I hope you found some value in it. If you're interested in a coaching session, if you're interested in our Facebook group or the Instagram account that we have at Pure Power Coaching, the links are all in the description. You can go in there and also book a discovery call if you'd like with me, a complimentary call, just to have a conversation about your needs and whether coaching might be something that's valuable to you. You can click the heart that's going to be this side, and please subscribe if you enjoy the videos, share them, let your friends know about Pure Power Coaching, whatever you're inspired to do. I always appreciate that, and I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you again.